Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Welcome back to The View from the Afternoon, the internet's most consistent podcast. Let me tell you, folks, I'm coming to you today from the coldest studio in the world. It is absolutely bitter cold. And in my pursuit to make this the world's most consistent podcast, I'm recording a lot of these in advance. Obviously, they're all recorded in advance, but so the time of recording this is when it's just starting to get like freezing cold. And I'm kind of just playing this game with myself to just see how long I can go without putting the heating on. And today is the closest I've been to putting the heating on. I've had 3 big mugs of tea in my 17-year-old Starbucks mug that I nicked when coming home from a house party in the morning of 2009. And it's just freezing, guys, so get cozy, get yourself all nice and warm, grab yourself a drink. Today I wanted to talk about something, you've seen the title, obviously, my biggest regrets as a full-time YouTube creator, or something along those lines, I'm going to call it. And I wanted to just reflect on some stuff that we've done, that I've done, that's maybe not great, or maybe that I wish I would have done differently. There's a few examples of these. I've come up with 10. 10's just a nice round number in it. These aren't all equally weighted, and some of them, they're not strictly regrets, I suppose, but they're just kind of things that we maybe didn't do right. But they all kind of, for the sake of this conversation, they can all be umbrellaed under the regret banner. Sorry, I'm just at the last few mouthfuls of my big mug of tea. There's Twinings. I know that'll piss some of you guys off. Right, there we go. Pop the mug there. Okay, so I've been a full-time YouTube creator. At the time this goes out, it'll be coming up to 3 years now, which is wild. 3 years as a full-time YouTuber. Never thought I'd be able to make it happen. I never thought that my friends would make it happen for me. But here we are. And I take my job really seriously. And even before it was my full-time job, I took it incredibly seriously. And because of that, the channel has always, whether we are spending 35 grand on a trip to Japan for the sole purpose of delivering videos, or whether the Leeds Fest 2016 lineup's about to be announced, I have had a relentless focus and unwavering priority that the channel and the videos comes first out of everything. And I do think that is part of the reason why we're successful. It certainly does play into the success story, but there are times where that has it's been examples of me not being a great person, or me not really having what we really should prioritize in life in the top slot. And I kind of, in some regards, I regret some of this stuff. In some regards, I kind of think, no regrets, because it got us to this exact point we're in right now. But it's good to reflect, and it's good to learn, and it's good to adapt. And some of these things are just logistical, like funnies and dumb stuff. Some of them are a bit deeper. So I'll start with the first one, which is I really regret, and I apologize, this might be a bit unrelatable, this one, but I really regret not quitting my full-time job sooner. The channel didn't really make any money until 2020, but I quit my job in 2023, but financially, the channel could have easily supported me in 2020. And I wish I would have quit sooner, because while I'm really grateful for a lot of my memories at Apple, I think if I'd have had this amount of focus and this amount of time on the channel, maybe 3 years prior to what I did, maybe we'd be, 3 years further ahead. I remember the last time I was chatting with Rob Damiani, when I bumped into him in All Bar 1 in London, and we were talking about, how I'd transitioned into full time, and he was like, isn't it amazing that now you can give that your whole attention? And obviously he'll be speaking from experience, because there will have been a time where he could then give his creative endeavor 100% of his attention. And I was like, yeah, it is so amazing. And I realized, like, God, why didn't I do this sooner? And I know the answer. The reason I didn't do it sooner is because I just felt like I was kind of taking the piss. Even though the channel occupies 90% of my mind all the time, I felt like it wouldn't really be fair for me to go full time if other people that are on the channel weren't doing that as well. And it's a nice way to think, but it's not a realistic way to think. Because realistically, then we'd need to have been earning as a channel like at least like 4 full-time salaries worth of profit, not just earnings, but profit, for us to make that jump and for me to feel comfortable, like, okay, now I'm not just doing it on my own. In reality, I should have done it sooner. I should have been less anxious about the optics of it in the group, and I should have just jumped the ship. I remember when we first started our Patreon in 2017, and there was a Patreon goal. You used to set like Patreon goals, and if we got to like a grand a month on there, I remember saying like that's like a full-time job, which it obviously isn't. But back then, my take-home pay was probably about 1,100-1,200 quid after tax from Curry's. So I was probably thinking like a grand a month can sustain me. But then when we did hit that monthly goal, it was like, I can't do this. Like, it's not my money to take, even though I'm putting, without trying to sound, the channel couldn't exist without every moving part in it, but I'm definitely contributing a majority share of that. Not to take away from any of the great work, I know Bridie, who might be listening to this, he'll finish a full shift and then he'll work into like the small hours, like doing the thankless tasks of running this channel. I'm not trying to sound like, oh, it's me that does everything, because it certainly isn't, and I couldn't do it without the people around me. Bridie just being one example. You could say the same for pretty much everyone, but I should have just been comfortable with like the executive decision of like, right guys, this has always been my focus. I'm now going to make it my entire focus. No one stood in my way of that. And as soon as I brought that to the table in 2023, everyone was fine with it. I just wish I'd have got to that point of confidence sooner. The restrictions that I put on myself when going full time for the channel were kind of stupid. I was like, right, I'm going to jump full time into the channel, but I'm not going to actually take a salary from the channel until I have increased the channel earnings enough to pay for myself, if you get me. So, and I did that and it worked, but like, I just blasted through my savings for like 6-7 months. Because I was just too like, I felt like I'd be taking the piss if I was like, I need to take some money out of the channel. I left to focus on the channel, and I made sure that I got the channel to a point where it was earning significant amount more than it was before I was focused on it, so I could take a pay without kind of leaving the channel any worse off. And it was just a stupid way to think. I suppose it's a nice way to think, but I do regret not jumping ship sooner. Obviously, Coachella was the reason that the channel started getting like to the size it is now. But even when it was small and niche, it was still ticking over a nice little bit of revenue. And it was definitely enough for me to leave and take a pay, to leave my job at Apple and definitely take a pay cut, but still keep a roof over my head. And I wish I would have done that. It's so hard to do. It's a scary thing to do. And anyone that's kind of in this kind of industry, or anyone in a creative, self-led industry like this, will tell you it's very scary to jump that ship. But if anyone out there is in a similar position, I'll just tell you what my creative friends and acquaintances told me, which is just do it. Just do it. Just take the risk. So I should have done that. And that is a regret of mine. It's not necessarily a super tangible regret. Like, I can't say, like, if I would have quit sooner, we would be right here. You never know. It could mean that we were we just shifted everything 3 years. If we're set to fail as a channel this year, and this year's the death of the channel, maybe it means the channel would have died 3 years ago. I'm not saying it's necessarily good. I'm just saying it wasn't a great use of my time. Next thing, here's one for you. This one's a bit more funny. We make Patreon only vlogs as part of our 10 from Leeds £10 a month tier, and the reason that these are behind the £10 paywall is because they are still expensive to produce, and I think realistically, we probably don't break even on those in like a month where we'll be making those, but there are some months where we don't make them, and then it kind of levels out. All the old vlogs and stuff are all on the £5 tier. The new exclusive stuff is on the tenner tier, along with other perks. But because of that, it means that like the stuff that I'm creating for the patrons, there's almost like an extra pressure of like, we have to deliver something, right? So this leads me to this this stupid day that I had, which was, we were filming for Patreon exclusively the Biffy Clyro A Celebration of Beginnings tour. It was a 6-date tour across 2 venues in December 2024. And it was me and Jake, and it was the first time me and Jake were kind of back together after the Burning Man controversy, if you will. And it was great. It was an amazing experience, in particularly London, like with Jake, and it was kind of just us two, and we're just kind of recapturing that, like, oh, this is actually why we're best mates. And it was necessary, and it was good to heal and just crack on, really. But fast forward up to Glasgow, which has tons of benefits. The main one being seeing my friend Ryan and getting to spend some time with Ryan. But my auntie had died. She had died selfishly earlier that month, and her funeral was on one of the days that the Biffy Clyro shows were on. So there was 3 in London, and then 1 day off, and then 3 in Glasgow. And family had decided that my auntie's funeral would be on the 2nd day of the Glasgow run, which is like, I mean, that the funeral absolutely comes first, but it couldn't have been a more inconvenient day for what we had to do, for what I had to do. So instead of just like skipping that day of the Biffy Clyro gig, I woke up at like 6:30 in the morning in Glasgow, and I got the like 4.5 hour train down to Leeds. went to the funeral, and then got the 4.5 hour train back up to Glasgow to finish the project. And just saying that aloud might sound a bit intense, but I can't describe how intense it truly was. Every second of this day was like down to the last millisecond. Like, I got to the Glasgow train station like 30 seconds before the train departed, and I'm running and I'm in my funeral attire. And then the connection on the train, like down to like seconds, I just make it. It's just so stressful. And then I've got to get to like the funeral, to the cemetery. So I'm like trying to book a taxi, and it's stuck in traffic, and I get there like just in time, and the family's obviously wondering like, where's Rob? Am I going to be there? And I'm just in time, and I'm so flustered because I had a second. It's just been stress nonstop. Attend the funeral, attend the wake, get to have a couple of drinks at the wake, which was important to me. But then it's a case of, right now I've got to leave, see everyone. I'd love to spend more time with the family and stuff, the extended family. I've got to fuck off. So again, it's like, just make it to the train station just in time. Just make the second connection just in time. Just get back to Ryan's like in the nick of time. And literally like all this, and I walk back into the Barrowland Ballroom like as Biffy Clyro within like 5 minutes of them starting. And it was just a stupid, stupid day in the pursuit of just getting this video as true to its original idea as possible. Now, I'm not going to lie and pretend that like I didn't really want to go to that gig. Like, it was important for me to be at that gig. But I've missed gigs that I wanted to be at for a lot less. The Patreon requirement that I'd set on myself made me do this ridiculous day of like 10 hours round trip. And it was just insane. And I can't believe I did it. And I'll never do something like that again, I don't think. It was absolutely wild to do that. And the video's there if you want to watch it. And I think it's a pretty good video. But the London section is infinitely better than the Glasgow section because it was just a lot more fun. And it wasn't kind of bogged down by this in the middle. Here's a stupid one. This is what I mean about it's not strictly like regrets as much as just like dumb stuff. So in 2018, we started a conversation with Festival Republic. It was a lovely woman by the name of Jane who'd reached out to us because her boyfriend had said, you should chat with these guys because we were like the authority on Leeds Fest. And we'd agreed to work together. And basically, we ended up signing a non-disclosure agreement with Festival Republic to receive that year's lineup in advance, which was amazing because it meant that we could produce our, like, back on the main channel, we used to produce, like, here's what we think about the lineup. And the lineup would drop and we'd have to then rush to get this piece of content out because, like, if it was out 2 hours before the next guys, then it would dwarf their performance, you know? Not that we want to take performance away from them, but, like, we would be the first, so everyone would go to us. You know, it's just kind of YouTube economics, I suppose, if that's the word. Getting this lineup beforehand, embargoed, was super handy because we could get all that stuff ready and release it the exact second that the lineup was publicly announced. And we continued to work with Festival Republic, and we worked with Melvin, and I still have a good relationship with Melvin, and Melvin got us into Leeds Fest Just Gone and stuff like that. And blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's all irrelevant. So the next year, 2019, I think it was 2019. Yeah, it was 2019 or 2020 before the lockdown. And I was hoping that we would get the lineup again, but Festival Republic were like, we're not going to give you the lineup. which was a little, I mean, we're not entitled to anything, but it was a little disappointing, to be fair. But maybe they just had an internal kind of thing of like, this doesn't go to anyone outside of like major publication or whatever. You know, their main goal is to prevent leaks and stuff like that. And so it was a bit disappointing that we didn't get it. I was a bit upset about that, but hey ho. But we still needed to produce this this video of like who's playing Leeds, and we really wanted to get it somehow to get it so it would drop as soon as the Leeds Fest lineup was actually publicly announced. But this time we didn't have the information beforehand. So what did we do? We sat down about a week before and we recorded reactions for like 30 bands that possibly might be announced for Leeds Fest. Cortinas, Catfish, Post Malone, 21 Pilots, The Kooks, Eminem, Foo Fighters, The 1975, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, Circa Waves, Don Broco, all these bands that you would kind of think, like Bring Me the Horizon, might play Reading and Leeds. And we recorded like 30 different segments, and then I concisely like edited them into like, this is the Don Broco bit, this is the Cortinas bit. And then as soon as the lineup dropped, I could then handpick the edited segments that we ended up being correct about, sling them in a video and get that out. So that was kind of some really thinking outside the box kind of way of getting this content out there as quick as possible without having the knowledge beforehand. But the stupid thing and the kind of pseudo regret in this is that then we released a video. It was like, well, we've put all this effort in, and this is main channel stuff back then, by the way. Then we released a video of like us talking about the like 20 that didn't get announced. And there was a video on the main channel of like lads talking about 17 bands that aren't playing Leeds Fest. And it was like, why have we even uploaded that? And we did like tease it, and we were like saying like, does anyone actually want to see like that? And I think some of the Sam Pelly squad was probably like, yeah, we'd watch that. But like, what a stupid idea. Genius idea to get the video out. And if you're like I mean, there's not many people doing what we did back then now. A lot of it's on TikTok, but like, if you're a TikToker and you're not privy to any information beforehand, just record everything that might be right and then get your content out as quick as possible by doing that. But what a stupid video the bands who aren't playing Leeds Fest is. Who cares about that? In the scope of this conversation here, I've used the word content quite a bit, and content's never been a more appropriate word, because this type of stuff is just soulless, totally time sensitive, like empty consumption, and it's this kind of stuff that just gives me no pleasure to create anymore. And it's just stuff that's like, even if it's right, even when it's right, even when we've got the lineup, all you're trying to do with that content is to just get clicks and increase your stats. And fair enough, you've got to play that game. But like, thankfully now we're in a position where we don't really have to play that game anymore. And I'm really glad we don't have to, because it's just stressful trying to get it out and not creatively fulfilling at all. And then a month after that video's dropped, no one's ever going to watch it again. So don't bother. Well, I'm not saying don't bother, but if it works for you, it works for you. But that's just a little bit of insight for me. So that was kind of a funny one. Let's go for another silly one. Kind of recent, this one. We went to Japan and it was amazing, but I needed to keep the weekly content coming while we were out in Japan. And to do that, we made some compromises that I don't think were worth making, and I really do regret this. Instead of just giving herself a week off from uploading. We split the crew. Half went to wireless, half went to transmit. The transmit product, I don't think really was up to modern TPD TV standard. I mean that with no disrespect, but it didn't really have much of a narrative or much of a lead-in kind of camera in it. And then it was also marred with like personal falling outs that I heard about after the fact that meant like an entire day wasn't filmed. And then we went to wireless and we had a great time, and I'm glad we went to wireless, and I might be a bit biased, but I certainly think that video is the better one of the two. But it meant losing, like, I'd rather have got like Raz and Dan with us at wireless, lost a week of uploads by not having a transmit video, you know, or even get the whole crew at wireless that went to transmit, get them all at wireless just so we can have a more diverse experience. So there was that, but there was also the fact that like I was down in London and I needed to travel straight down. I couldn't come back home. So I finished wireless, then I went straight to a hotel, edited the wireless video, and flew to Japan the next morning. So having to sort albeit simple, but like the logistics of like, I need my bag bringing down by one of the guys that's coming down from Scotland. I need all my dirty washing from wireless taking home. Mary, can you do that? And then on the flight, just like editing non-stop. And even in Japan, like editing not non-stop. In Japan, there was minimal editing going on, but you know, spending an afternoon doing some editing, it was too much, all in the hopes of just not missing a week of uploads. And what we ended up with was a subpar festival video in the middle of the season, a small crew festival video at wireless when we didn't need to have one, a more tired and worn out me. And also we have like a content plan for the year, and that was wrong. So I'd like really kind of stretched myself to get 3 videos ready. So when we were in Japan, we could release those 3 videos and there wouldn't be a break in the uploads. So people would still get a video every Sunday. But the content plan was wrong as well. So like I'd actually overworked and produced 1 extra video more than I needed to, which was the Nashville video, that's why that came out so much later in the year. And the overall lesson from this is like, we're still super driven, and I'm absolutely going to try and deliver non-stop weekly content, but there's smarter ways to do it than just pushing yourself a bit too far and compromising on your product. We've got months of the year right now where we can be stacking up and banking content and videos, and that's what we should be doing instead of trying to adapt mid-season to ensure that stuff comes out. So I just kind of regret that. I think we could have done a better job at that. I could have done a better job at that. Another one here is A Day in the Life is a vlog series that's recently passed 200 episodes, and I'm so proud of it. And it is it was the backbone of the channel, and it's super important in the history of TPD TV. And all the legacy episodes, almost 200 of them, are available on Patreon on the £5 tier if you want to watch them. And it's basically the vlog series that started the channel, really, and started the whole YouTube thing. And by the nature of its name, A Day in the Life, it was really just whatever's happening on that day that I wanted to immortalize. And I think there was one real tone-deaf immortalization that took place. It wouldn't matter how big or important or insignificant a day was. I wanted to capture it, I wanted to encapsulate it, and I wanted to immortalize it. And I'm really glad I did that with most of these things. But I'm going to say something now that might make some of you a bit surprised. Making a vlog at your own dad's funeral is a little bit misplaced. I made a video of what was ultimately one of the biggest and most important days of my life. It was a celebratory video to celebrate my dad's life. And it wasn't like we're stood at the funeral ceremony filming. But there was footage of the hearses and the limos. And what it was basically then a vlog of like the wake and then us going out into town. And all the boys were there, like literally all of them. Bridie, Raz, Dan, Chris, Mary. I didn't know Jake and Choc at this point, so they get let off. But just kind of the nature of like, I was so in the rhythm of like capture and immortalize days that you're having, and this video is fine. Like it's probably a decent watch. As I say, it is on the Patreon. And that's not me trying to get you to join. I'm just saying, like, if you're already on there, check it out. But like, it's not like a super upsetting video. It's not, but I think it's just on the edge of like just bad taste. And I remember Dan was filming the cars going past, like the funeral cars, the hearse and stuff. And like, he hated doing that, but he did that for me because I was so hell-bent on like, we need to encapsulate this. I think that might have been a video that was maybe better just saved in my family as opposed to like put out there. But you live and you learn, really. A similar thing that's like way different is like my friend's wedding. Like I went to my friend's wedding, my friend Dave's wedding in 2017 and like vlogged it. But like at no point did I like say to him, by the way, I'm going to vlog your wedding and it's going to go on my YouTube channel. It was just this kind of unwavering, like laser vision on any day that you're having that's vaguely interesting. Capture it and encapsulate it and immortalize it. And Dave didn't, it never was fed back to me that like Dave's not happy about it. Like, but just like, even if they're fine with it, like to not even ask, you know, and it was too like laser focused on just creating and immortalizing, you know, and that happens. And this was when we was a real small channel and the focus was just as strong then as it is now, you know, and when you're so focused on something and on creating and on capturing and encapsulating and immortalizing, sometimes your kind of common sense just kind of goes out the window. And look, we've never done anything super terrible, but like when you've got like YouTube creators that get into like big controversies for like filming or doing something stupid, while I don't make excuses for them, I do understand that like if you are a creator, full-time or otherwise, like we were making no money back when I was filming this stuff, but like full-time or otherwise, if you have that laser focus that's too laser focused, your better judgment often does and often will fall by the wayside and you can make some mistakes. And I think that's worth remembering. But yeah, that was a dumb one. Okay, I've got 5 more on this list here. Here's one for you. I really do regret inducting Jake Varley into the TPD. Now I'm going to let you sit with that just for a second. Okay. So some of you have got annoyed. Let me explain what I mean. We have had a culture in the past of being quite gatekeepy. Not through... that was not necessarily our intention, but we're such a tight, close-knit group of friends that sometimes we can accidentally make someone feel left out. And there was a point where Jake was kind of in the perimeter of the group. Everyone that had met him really liked him. And he kind of had these really like these qualities that are really, really important to us as a group of like best mates. He was generous, and all these things are still true about Jake. He was generous and selfless and fun. And, you know, we did have some people, like some friends, and some of these people you'll know from the channel who were like too tight to like buy a pint or buy a round, or, you know, just or who are not in it for they're kind of in it for themselves and what can they get out of this machine, as opposed to like that not being a thing. And Jake kind of ticked all these boxes for us where we were like, do you know what? He's already our mate. Let's like induct him into like the inner circle, which is TPD. So we did that. And my regret isn't that strictly that we did that with Jake, but what that did was create a really visible barrier of like, okay, Jake's been inducted into this thing that they've just said they've got. TPD is like the thing. And by inducting Jake, it didn't necessarily do so much for Jake as much as it did for anyone else who hadn't been inducted. And it really just kind of created this barrier. And no one brought this to me, but I've just kind of realized this on my own. That like, it's just really bad optics of like, well done, Jake. You've now graduated to being one of our best friends. But you've got people who have appeared in the videos who haven't been like formally inducted. And it's just stupid. And it's quite toxic and quite poisonous, really. It came from a place of love. Like me, Dan, Bryady, and Raz would do anything for each other. We would literally do anything. You know, Bryady gave Danny White his credit card to use for a year. Like, you know, we're that kind of friend group where what is mine is truly yours and vice versa for everyone. And Mary's the same. And we're unwavering in our love and support, and no favor is too big for us to do for each other. And a lot of our other friends weren't at that level, which I can understand for some stuff. It came down to some of them just tight asses, like wouldn't buy it, like, you know, be sending out like the Monzo split if you buy like a round of McFlurries, instead of being comfortable in the knowledge of like, I'll buy this round of McFlurries because probably next week I will get a McFlurry bought for me, kind of thing. And Jake just encapsulated this. So then you've got people like, you know, I'll use as an example like Ben, who hadn't been inducted into this inner sanctum. And what we really should have done was just, and I guess we did the right thing by learning from that almost immediately, and by seeing like, hang on a minute, how does this make some of your other friends feel? They're no less of a friend to me, or at least they're not at the time. You know, that they're still like my brothers. Why are we now quantifying? And it was kind of like a dumb bit for the video, because the comments used to say like, oh, Jake for TPD, blah, blah, blah. But that's why, you know, a year or so after that, when people were saying like, I think some people were saying like, oh, get Chalk, induct Chalk into TPD, induct Jack, you know, and it was like, this is no longer a thing now. TPD TV is the YouTube channel and the crew, and anyone that's here with us is TPD TV. There is no hard line of like, you're not in it, you are in it, you're not in it, you've graduated into it. It was just really toxic. And again, it didn't come from a place of like toxicity intentionally, but I am very regretful of how I might have made others around us feel by giving one person special treatment who had met our arbitrary criteria for like, you know, having like the group's best priorities at best as their priority. I hope I've explained that right. I've kind of rambled over my words a bit then, but it was just stupid to do that. And Jake Varley is a member of the TPD crew, and he will be for, you know, as long as I imagine, as long as he wants to be, he will be. And the same goes for Jack Smith, and the same goes for me and Choc and Raz, and, you know, anyone that's on the videos is part of the crew. Okay, Rachel, you know, we used to draw a hard line, and I really regret that we used to draw that hard line, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, here's that one was a bit more heavy and a bit more kind of deep. So we'll talk about a stupid one, which was the channel was gaining some traction from our Leeds Fest videos. We did 2014, which got 20,000 views in a year, which was unheard of for us. And then we did 2015, which did about the same. 2016, 2017, you know, and these videos were doing well. The channel was on like 5,000, less than 5,000 subscribers, but the vids were doing well. So what did I decide to do after our Leeds Fest 2017 video came out? I thought, how do we follow up? Because the YouTube game, even then, like, it demands that you consistently upload like stuff people care about. And if you even take a second to breathe, like, you are punished by the system. You know, just look at our Japan videos, which we'll come to in a bit. I had to prioritize that product being the best it could be. And because of that, two of them just underperformed, like worse than any video we've had underperform, because we didn't appease the algorithm. So imagine how the algorithm treated us in 2017, when after uploading Leeds Fest's like flagship video of the year, the 2017 best camp video, I followed that up with daily uploads of Will It Slice. Now, for those of you that don't know, Will It Slice is a web series that me and my friends at uni created, including Chris, where we would just basically, it was kind of like, I was the slicer, my friend Dave was the thrower, and just imagine it kind of like baseball, but with a knife, and I sliced the thing. And it was just basically trashing our flat every week. And we released these across 2010 and 2011 on like, I think they were on their own YouTube channel and on our Facebook page for Will It Slice. And it would be a case of like, Dave would throw like a bag of flour and I would slice it and the whole room would fill with flour. And it was really stupid. And our roommates, our flatmates that weren't part of the lads, fucking hated it, and totally reasonably as well. But we did 4 seasons of Will It Slice with maybe like 7 or 8 episodes per season. So I condensed each season into its own video, and then uploading them on the main channel, on the TPD TV channel, or what would become the TPD TV channel. So we've just released Leeds Fest flagship content. Perfect time to, you know, back then, if we could get 500 subscribers from that, that'd be a big deal for us. What are you going to follow that up with? Oh, here's 4 consecutive uploads of a series no one cares about, that you've not explained to the audience, that was filmed 7 years prior and consequently is very dated in both its quality, its whole idea, some of the language used in it. It is just so of its time. And that is how I decided to follow up that video. And I guess at the time and I am proud of Will It Slice. It's stupid, but I'm proud of it. And I guess at the time I was like, this channel was called Rob Kellis Vlogs at the time. It wasn't called TPD TV. And I was like, I want this to be kind of the one-stop shop for all my creative endeavors. And I was like, Will It Slice is just kind of ignored. And I want to have that. I want to platform that. But what a stupid idea. It would literally be like me releasing the Coachella video in a few months and then re-releasing all the 45 things to do in Leeds or the Car Bant series straight after. It's like, it's just so dumb. And it didn't have a catastrophic effect because we were so small, but like, talk about like stopping yourself dead. Stupid idea. Let's lighten the tone. We got 2 more. I want to talk about the something that I kind of regret and don't regret in equal measure is the Japan videos. So, as you know, well, some of you know, we released our best content ever, which is a 3-part series of us traveling across Japan. Videos that I'd wanted to make since 2019, and me and the guys, we put our all into it. It is my heart and soul is on these videos. Every frame is deliberate and meticulous, and like one of them's 90 minutes, one of them's an hour, one of them's 70 minutes long. They're all killer, no filler. The best TPD videos that you'll ever see. I will never ever top them. And part of the reason I'll never ever top them is because I just think I've kind of been put off trying to the level that I tried, because we released our Tokyo video and it did really well, really well. It zipped straight up to 200,000 views, which is unheard of for a travel video for us. But then the Kyoto video and the Fuji road trip video, they just flopped so hard, and it was a flop that I've just never seen before. Like, and this is why I kind of regret it, and also don't really regret it, because I don't really know what I could have done differently, because the videos were perfect and the best that I could do. The release of them was publicized, and I thought at least made clear and I wonder if maybe the artistic kind of creative expression and the flair that I put on those videos maybe hurt them a bit. Having like a minute-long intro cinematic is maybe not good for YouTube's algorithm. I get a lot of people in the comments and stuff. We get a lot of people in the comments that say like, God, I'm having a shit time, but every time I see you guys upload, it really kind of saves the week for me, and it takes me out of the world, and that's my duty and my honor to do that, to upload for you. And it's why we want to upload weekly, and chose to upload these Japan videos. First of all, I needed to spend the time to make them, which was about 2 months. But then I wanted to get them out to the fans as quickly as possible, because I was like, they've not had their Sunday entertainment. They're going to be missing it. And we released them in a time of year where we typically always fail. Anything that's from like September to December, typically just people aren't really interested. People aren't interested in TPD TV in those months for whatever reason. It didn't work when we released festival content in those months. It didn't work when we released just standard like Wild Weekend challenge videos in those months. And it hasn't worked when we've released our magnum opus Japan series. So I guess my regret is, number one, I kind of wanted to release them fortnightly instead of weekly, which would have just given each one maybe a bit more time to breathe. But we had sponsor agreements that just wouldn't budge. Like Jackery, for example, they absolutely needed that Kyoto slot, that second week in November. So we couldn't move that. So it didn't make sense. And Tokyo had to come out on that first week of November. So we were kind of locked in then to 2. In an ideal world, they'd probably not even be out yet, and I would maybe release them in like May. But yeah, I just really regret that they didn't do so well, and I'm not sure why they didn't. I've had some people reach out and explain why. There's definitely things I could have done differently. Maybe I should have publicized it a bit more. Maybe I publicized it too much. Our Instagram was full of pictures of us in Japan, like 8 different Instagrams across the course of 2 weeks, Instagram posts, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? I don't know what the solution to that would have been, but I do know that I regret expecting so much more from those videos. I'm not like really upset or frustrated or angry or I am disappointed, but like not to the degree you might think, because those people that did watch the videos loved them, and the kindness of the comments, like it's overwhelming, like critical acclaim on these videos like we've never seen before. A lot of people just didn't click on them. Anyone that clicked on them loved them, it seems, but a lot of people just didn't click on them. And that's kind of the most frustrating thing, because I don't know why. I don't know if I did something wrong. I don't know if YouTube didn't serve them. I don't know if people are just fatigued and getting sick of us at this time of year. I honestly don't know. But that is, again, a regret I can't really dial into. I'm not really sure what we could have done differently, but I've got a few ideas, and, you know, it is what it is. And the video's doing so well was a huge kind of consolation prize from a reception standpoint. The last thing I want to talk about is some funny old shit from 2021, and something that I don't really regret doing, but it's just more of another like mental thing that like I can't believe we did do, which was the self-fulfilled SWHBB box logo t-shirt drop of 2021. We'd released our red box logo t-shirts in 2017. They sold out instantly, and that was for charity. And then we was like, let's re-release them in 2021. Let's do 500. And it was the first time that we were doing everything like firsthand. Obviously the t-shirts were printed by a t-shirt printer, but instead of like what we do now is we work with T-Mill, and they handle all the logistics of it, and it's great. They take a substantial cut, like a third of the net income goes to 2/3 of the net income goes to them. But we wanted to do it all ourselves in 2021. So we put them on sale. We advertised them. Like I did top level like marketing for them as far as I can do anyway. And they sold so quick that I couldn't turn them off in time. And we sold actually of these 500 t-shirts, these limited edition t-shirts, we sold about 720 quid. And not 720 quid, about 720 units. And it was mental. But then I had to order all the t-shirts to me, and we had to fulfill them ourselves, and it was so hard to do. I did a significant part of it on my own, a real large amount of it, at least half of it, if not more, on my own. Even just taking delivery of 720 t-shirts is more difficult than it might sound. Then you've got to get them somewhere. Then you've got to arrange them into size. Then you've got to fold them professionally. Then you've got to tag them. Then you've got to put them in a dust bag with the goodies that you've promised with them, like the sticker and stuff. Then you've got to put them in a shipping bag. Then you've got to print shipping labels. Then you've got to ship them. And there was a big chunk of this where I had significant help. There was a night where me, Cleesby, Raz, and Bryady did all the printing of the shipping labels and the bagging in the shipping bags. But the kind of much more kind of hands busy, like time consuming stuff, like arranging them, folding them, tagging them, was done by me. And I remember getting really angry while I was doing it. We were blessed to have performed so well with this merch drop, but like my anger was probably just misplaced frustration. But Dan was just in his bedroom, like not doing out at the time. And I remember getting like really resenting Dan for a bit, which I shouldn't have done. I probably should have just asked him for the help. But the thing with me is I hate to seem like I'm nagging. But I'm in here folding like 700 t-shirts with minimal help. And Bridie was really good. Bridie was like offering for help and stuff. And Bridie came over and helped a couple of times. But it was so much work, guys. And I'm not going to pretend like the t-shirts didn't deliver as an outstanding financial result. They really did. But it was just not worth the insane amount of effort that we'd gone to. And I know you can order these t-shirts like bagged and tagged and stuff, but that costs money, right? So we wanted to save as much money as possible. That's why we were doing this, because we wanted to profit as much as possible, because we had some grandiose plans for the videos. But I would love to do it again now that I'm full-time on the channel, because I was working as well during this. I was working full-time at Apple while this was going on. But my God, it was so difficult. Oh, we had to sign all the coursework sheets. We included them. You know, another step. Doesn't sound like much, but when you've got to do it over 700 times, it was a hard work. And do you know what? You work hard, you get a good result. And we certainly worked hard and we certainly got a good result. But it was one of those things of, I just can't believe that we're even doing this. The entire flat, the entire space that we're in now, it was just turned into a pigsty. It became a distribution center. And I don't regret it strictly, but it was just a mental thing that we did for the channel. And we should have maybe done it a bit differently. Well, that's it from me this evening. Some heavy ones in this and hopefully a bit of fun. I hope I've come across in the right way. I always get a bit concerned that I might be misinterpreting myself as maybe a bit main character or whatever, but sorry if that's the case. I'm just trying to articulate these as well as possible with my limited linguistic skills. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The View from the Afternoon. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week. And we'll see you next week for some more festival lineups. I will love you and leave you. Thanks again and goodbye from the world's most consistent podcast.